This interview is for information only and should not be considered as investment advice or a recommendation to buy shares in the company featured. Welcome to this Stock Box interview.
Today is Jason Brewer, the CEO of Marula Mining, following news that the company has increased their interest in the Kinusi copper project to 75%, amongst other bits of news that have come out over the past week. But we'll start on the most recent, that's the increase there on the Kinusi copper project to 75%. So welcome back, Jason. I know you're very busy, but thank you for your time. How are you?
I'm very well, Mark. Thank you. And it's great to be back on.
Well, first of all, can you just explain perhaps why you've increased your stake here? I picked up from the RNS that through the recent site visits, you've identified additional copper surface exposure of mineralization. So you're clearly happy with what you're seeing here. Is that the main reason why you wanted to increase?
Absolutely. It's twofold, actually. All our due diligence, all our site visits and work done to date has really demonstrated that Kinusi has the potential to be something special. Mm-hmm. You know, you can see the high-grade copper mineralization at surface, shallow depths, so you can see it there. So that's a great sign. There's clearly a lot more work to be done, but that's positive. Copper market going from strength to strength, another reason why. But when we first did this deal, the company was actually limited in that it wasn't able to take a majority interest. We changed that last year in November at the AGM, and that allowed us to take majority and or 100% interest. So it was timely to do so. And it followed a site visit by my fellow director, Mark Nally, and also Richard Lloyd, both who are very experienced geologists and particularly in copper too.
Okay. And this deal's been done with Tequila Mining, hasn't it? Which also ties into the graphite that you announced last week. Now, the way you're working together, it's through shares, isn't it, and certain milestones. So you have made some cash payments to increase your percentages here. But am I right in understanding that Tequila will actually take shares in Marula, generally speaking at a premium and locked in for a period of 12 months, and that can go along as far as the milestones are met on the project?
Absolutely. It's important whenever you work in some of these countries to have a good local, strong partner. And Tequila are certainly demonstrating their ability to be just that. When we announced the graphite deal last week, it was important that we got them aligned to our business. So that was a purely share-based transaction. And with the first tranche of shares issued at a 50% premium to the then share price, but importantly, 100% premium to the transaction that we announced earlier with Q Global Commodities. So they're taking it at a premium. They've bought into our story, our strategy, and they're aligned there. In the copper, they've done just that. We've actually had to make a cash payment to them, or will be making a cash payment to them shortly. But the majority of the consideration as part of that increased acquisition is share-based. And again, the first tranche of 100,000 is due at a 7.5 pence share price. So well above what we're trading at the moment. And again, a 100% premium to what we did with Q. So again, very much aligned, and both tranches for both the graphite and copper locked in for 12 months as well.
Yeah, so they must be pretty happy then with the working arrangement that they have with you to sort of take shares rather than cash. That's obviously a risk, and given the 12-month lock-in as well, and the premium to the share price. So they must share the confidence in the partnership.
Yeah, I think, like I say, they've bought into our strategy, but they've also seen us move very quickly here in Africa, not just to secure the deals, but to get on the ground and do things. And that's what's important with any local partner. It's that by the time the ink is set, you're already busy doing things. So they've been very impressed by that. They love it. They've seen many other, call it joint ventures or investments by other foreign companies in Tanzania where things haven't really moved forward. It's been more of a market play as opposed to a project play, if you want to call it that. So they're very happy with our direct and our response. We move very quickly. So they've been following the story in South Africa at Blesberg and been very impressed at how fast we've moved there. And we hope to repeat that at Kinusi at the copper.
It is. You definitely do move quick. Only a week or so has passed and we've got a lot of news to catch up on. Let's just spend a little bit more time on this recent copper project here. Some of the grades are incredible. 7.28, 19.12, 31.32. These are incredible grades. Is that from historical grade? You talk about handheld XRF as well in there. But you can't have got those grades from the XRF, can you?
Yeah, that was literally when we were on site. We were there. We have an XRF gun, which is properly calibrated.
Okay.
We need to do the proper samples. Don't get me wrong. This gives you a good indication. So we were there. We were able to obviously observe the shallow at surface mineralization, and you can see it. You would have seen it in all our social media, the videos, photographs, and so on. So you can actually see it there. We're not expecting those grades to be consistent throughout. Let's not. We're not kidding ourselves there. We want to move quickly on this project, and we want to get a small-scale production facility established in the second half of this year. Okay. But concurrent with that, we want to be doing the resource definition drilling to prove up exactly just what we've got, how big this, I'd love to call it a beast, but let's drill this thing out. And that's one of the benefits of the transaction we did with Q Global Commodities. There is funding allocated within their investment to actually fully drill out the Kinusi copper project up to a JORC compliant resource. And that's what we're expecting. And look, to be very honest, I'm expecting something similar in an average grade to come out at the high end of what you see in the DRC, which has some of the highest grade copper projects in the world.
Okay, so what is the work program that you're going to be following here at Kinusi? You talk there about wanting to get production potentially this year and upgrading the resource there. And of course, the milestones are important as well. So give us a bit of an idea of what's to come here.
Yeah, look, Geofields, which is a Tanzanian geoservices company, they've just finished their initial phase of work on our graphite licenses. They are now moving on to Kinusi, and they'll be doing a very detailed mapping, trenching, sampling program, not just across the main copper exposures that we've seen, but as you mentioned, the additional plus 30 surface expressions and exposures that we've seen. So Geofields are going straight in there to do that work. At the same time, what we're doing is we're upgrading a lot of the roads. We're looking at bringing in some mobile equipment, and we're looking at starting with some very small scale, limited production on what we've seen as, call it the major high grade zone, which people have seen obviously from the photographs we've put out and the videos. So we're looking at starting that late in the second quarter, that kind of mobilization of equipment and activities. We then expect, once Geofields have done their initial work and our own geos have done their work, that come the second half of the year, we will actually have a formulated drill program in place to give us more confidence in the underlying copper mineralization and come out with a JORC compliant resource, which will really kind of better define that project. Okay.
Well, the same question then really on the new graphite project. That's the Nyorinyori, I think. Am I saying that right?
I'll take your pronunciation as the correct one. Okay. We've got to come up with far easier names to define this. That's the local township, the local village there in Manyara region. So yes, that's another deal we've actually announced on Friday last week with Tequila Mining as well. So we have a 75% commercial interest across 10 graphite mining licenses. So again, not exploration licenses, mining, and where we've already observed from our own site visits, small scale mining and sales to actual Chinese counterparties. So it's you can see it. However, like a lot of things in that region, there's been a lack of capital, a lack of systematic modern exploration, and that's what we're planning to do. So we're going to use Geofields again. They've certainly demonstrated in a short period of time that they can get a team on the ground and do that kind of initial work and confirm what visually we can see. So again, it's getting out there, doing more trenching work, doing more pitting, some more sampling, and then moving into some very shallow drilling because the mineralization there is very shallow, stroke at surface. So very exciting for us.
So almost replicating the same model over and over again using Geofields who you've used in the past. Would you drop the project if it wasn't looking like it was going to be worthwhile to you? Would that be something you would consider?
Absolutely. You know, we're not just picking up, look, I've seen many companies that land bank, you know, they think, you know, the better resources come in having, 10,000, 100,000 square kilometers of exploration licenses and whatever. No, you've got to focus. And, we've been very clear in our strategy here about identifying what we think are near-term high-value projects. But as soon as they don't look as though they're likely to meet our own criteria, then they'll be chopped. You've got to take a disciplined approach here. If you don't, you've got too many projects to allocate your capital to, and they're almost competing against each other. And again, I can see a number of companies, peer companies in London that are just, you've got to put the capital in there that can actually accelerate them through. You can't drip feed 24 projects. You've got to give the project the capital it needs to move forward. And we are very fortunate in that. We've got the funding out of Quinton, out of Q Global Commodities. And that really probably differentiates us from a lot of other exploration/development companies out there.
Well, that was my next question there, the capital to progress these things. Funding's all sorted then, partly from Tequila, presumably, and from Q Global.
Yeah, if you look at the transaction we did with Q Global, and just last week we announced that we'd signed the two other documents with them, the co-development and the relationship agreement. So that's all three agreements now fully signed. The funding from them comes against milestones. And each one of them is linked to our projects, the graphite, the copper, the lithium. So that the quantum of funding there as well is what's expected to be necessary to complete the resource drill out on each and every one of those projects and be able to basically quantify what we've got. Just how big is Blesberg? How big is Kinusi? And what a wonderful opportunity there is at the graphite, really drill them out. So like I said, that differentiates us, I guess, from a lot of companies out there in that we're not always looking over our shoulder at, okay, how are we going to raise the next $1 million to fund our exploration programs? We've got that locked away already. So it gives us that confidence to move forward very quickly.
Indeed. Okay, well, that's good to hear. Just a final couple of thoughts. I know you were at the Indaba last week. You were with Quentin. Just what were your thoughts on the Indaba?
It was, I'm still probably getting over it, actually. It was exhausting. I think at the one-to-one conference, which was on the Monday and Tuesday, we had close to 30 meetings, consecutive meetings over 2 days. You then go on to various cocktail functions and dinners. So you actually don't stop work. The Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, again, meetings throughout. So investor appetite is very much back. There's no question about that. Huge attendance, not just by investors, fund managers, brokers, obviously, but also by a lot of the host countries that recognize they've got to get out there and attract that investment back into their countries. So that was good to see. I mean, we spent a fair bit of time with the state mining company out of Tanzania. We spoke to people from Uganda, and of course, Kenya here. So as well as obviously a lot of people out of South Africa. So very well attended, great sentiment throughout, a lot of positivity. And look, it was a great opportunity for me to check out some of our peers and gauge how we're doing against them. So it's always good to check out the competition.
Good. Well, it's good to hear there was a good vibe there. That speaks volumes to what's going on in the sector generally. Then it's nice to hear that there's some positivity there and lots of interest. Final question, Jason. I can't let you go without sort of getting an update from Blesberg Lithium. We were talking about delivery, the trucks arriving. Of course, the assays are due back from the bag sample there that's been going on to prove the grade there, and of course the further exploration. So, what's the latest you can tell us on Blesberg?
Latest is we're still waiting for the assay results to come back. We did a large, I think it was a 5-ton sample from the bagged material that was split into 4. 3 of those samples going to different labs for assaying. Again, we've got to make sure that the assays are representative of the overall material. So that was important for us. And the 4th portion of that is the umpire sample, basically just to verify it. So that is all in process. We're expecting that back very soon. And clearly I'm very keen to do that because then that triggers the trucks. That triggers the next 2.5 million that we're due to receive. So I'm very keen to have that cash in the bank and to be able to start applying it towards my other broader projects. So that's moving ahead. The exploration, we have our geologists on site. We have the resource drilling being planned, the overall program. I was actually on a call earlier today with Q Global's technical representatives, and there are calls taking place with them as well to go through that resource drilling program. And then we'll go out to tender for the drilling. So all of that work is ongoing, and we're pushing ahead very nicely on that one, that's for sure.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Jason Brewer, the CEO of Marula Mining, for your time.
Mark, thanks again. Always a pleasure.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programs at stockboxmedia.com. Thank you for watching.